Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a new edition of the Noise Brigade. I am Bobby. He is Tom. Tom, how the hell are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I am fantastic.
I
Um,
am slow pouring a beer right now, so I'm hoping it doesn't foam over. That's how
so
prepared I, that's how prepared I come.
we're closing in on a year of the pod. Did you realize that?
Yeah, pretty crazy. And you and I were texting a little bit earlier about maybe a good year end wrap up, and I think we need to do a super show.
Like a WWE Super Show?
No, way better than that.
Yeah. It's got
Yeah.
to be way better than that.
Oh, anything's better than that now. It's yeah, yeah.
Especially if it's in Saudi Arabia.
Ooh, oh, yeah, it's a shame. It really is. That'll be part of the Super Show though, because we did do some wrestling content, so
That's
we'll
true.
have
We'll,
to
we'll make
we'll
fun
have
of
to
the
yeah, we'll have to revisit some of that.
yeah. But this episode, this is not our super show, but it is in a manner of speaking because we're going to talk about a super game. Um, so Warner Brothers has announced that they're releasing a competitor to Super Mario World, yeah, Super Smash Brothers, and the newer game, Nickelodeon All Stars Battle Royale or whatever the hell it's called,
All
and
Star
Brawl.
Brawl.
There we go. I should know this because I was super excited about it at one point, and we'll get into why it sucks and some of that stuff. But and then there's a little indie game called Brawlhalla that's been making some noise lately as they got some Smash Bros. Or some Street Fighter characters in it. So, but this game looks like it's going to be out of control, and not only is it going to be out of control, it's going to be free to play. So I thought it was
Yeah,
a pretty good topic.
yeah. The kind of wrap back around though. For those that have played these platform fighters over the years, and really this kind of the way these games started, outside of your typical fighting games, and you just mentioned Street Fighter, but they evolved over time, right? And so like Super Smash Brothers, which has now been around what 20 years
Yeah, at
roughly.
least. Did it come?
Yeah,
I don't remember if the first one came out in '96 or
yeah, it's been
no,
a
it had to be like
while.
'99 or something like that.
Yeah. So it's been a while, and but basically you have just this menagerie of characters, and with Super Smash Brothers, it was basically anyone that was under that Nintendo umbrella, and that's evolved over time, and you have a lot of different versions of it with different systems, and the newest being the Ultimate version for the Switch, which is an amazing game, and mainly because the roster is just so deep, and it's fun. It's ridiculous. Fall off the side fighting game. With a great roster. But then you had mentioned to me about this Nickelodeon All Star Brawl, which was really curious because I really didn't know much about it. You want to speak on that before we dive into Multiversus here?
Yeah, man. So the Nickelodeon game was coming out with a lot of hype. Like I was actually super excited about it. Came out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden you hear, "Oh, Nickelodeon Brawler," kind of like Smash Brothers, and you start thinking, "Oh, okay, it's going to be shovelware like most of the other Nickelodeon based games." Then you start looking at the roster, and you've got um, Avatar, so you've got Aang, and you've got Korra, so you got both Airbenders there. You've got Cat Dog, which outstanding. You've got Ren and Stimpy. You've got Powdered Toast Man, and you're starting to think, okay, this is pretty good. You've got SpongeBob and Patrick. You've got Reptar. You've got Ublina from Real Monsters, and you've got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, among others. And the roster's looking really good, and you're like, man, maybe they're on to something here. This could actually be good. And then you start looking at the tech specs, and it's like, oh, they put wave dashing in. Oh, okay, so that's cool. That's something that Smash fans have been wanting for a while to have put back into the game. Oh, they're using net back or rollback net code. Okay, they're taking this seriously, and it's starting to look like a true contender to Smash. And then the game comes out, and I bought this day one for Peyton, And not gonna lie, obviously I played it too, but we played it with two of my friends, and we played maybe like 3 rounds and then turned it off. And I don't know that anyone has played it again because they botched it so bad. They took this. It's not that the game doesn't play well. It's not that at all. It's not that it doesn't have a great cast of characters. It does. The problems are, it's going to sound so stupid, but it's little things that just make it like not enjoyable to play. So one of those things is, and again, it sounds like a petty, stupid, superficial thing, but they didn't get any of the voice actors to reprise their roles. There is no, there's no grunts, there's no taunts, there's no, I mean, vocally, there's none of that stuff. There's no catchphrases. They didn't use any of the music from any of the shows. They didn't use any of the background, like any of the backgrounds for the game. None of them take place in any of like the actual locales from the shows. All these little things just add up to it being an unenjoyable game. Then there's no color differences either for the characters.
Mm,
So, in Smash, you'll have a Mario that's dressed like Mario. You'll have a Mario that's dressed like Luigi. You'll have a Mario dressed like Waluigi, like Wario, whatever. Different colors or some kind of differentiation, not in not in the Nickelodeon game. And then probably the biggest thing for me though, besides not being able to tell who the heck you are if people have multiple of the same character, is you there are levels where it's literally luck whether or not you live or die, because it's just moving pieces. It's not even a solid piece anywhere. It's just you have to jump from thing to thing to thing. There's nowhere you can stand. And it's not like the moving levels in Smash Brothers where you just constantly have to move and there's solid places for everybody to land. It's not
right.
like that. It's just trash floating through space and you have to jump from one piece of trash to the other piece of trash. And it just wasn't fun.
Yeah. And you even mentioned it to me. I was a bit unaware of that excuse me, of its existence. The cast of characters was amazing. Um, but then you started talking to me about some of the negatives, and you just mentioned it here with the lack of audio and music. And if you think back to some of the, I'm not going to say fighting games, I'll say more of the wrestling games. Um, One of the coolest aspects of those games to me early on, and I'm talking maybe like original PlayStation era, in that time frame, was the audio and the music, and it had entrance music.
Right.
It had these different things. The gameplay might not have been great, but it was enough. It's like you still had enough of that experience then to be like, you know what, this is pretty fun. This is pretty cool. And you mentioned that it's just not a fun experience. But if you start taking away layers, the music, you can't differentiate between characters like you can in Smash, or just like you said, this the complete randomness of the level. Um, you know, where that does happen in Smash. Don't get me wrong. I played enough of it to see what happens at times. Um, but if that really operates that way, that's not fun at all.
Right.
That makes me not want to play it even more.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to sit here and say, oh, Smash is the perfect game. It has no flaws, because it does have flaws, but the gameplay itself and the entire package and the whole presentation is enjoyable enough that you can look past those flaws. If the flaws build up enough where it's not, it makes it to the point where it's not possible to look past those flaws and still have fun and play the game. You're just kind of like sitting there the whole time, like, why the hell am I playing this? And that's what I felt when I was playing the Nickelodeon All Stars Brawl. Was I just genuinely was not having fun. Which listen, I've got a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade cabinet sitting in my freaking living room next to my TV. If anyone's gonna have fun with a brawler like that, with a fighting game like that, it should be me.
Right.
And I had zero fun playing that game.
Yeah, that's not good. So hopefully, and let's dive into here this new game that's coming out in 2022, Multiverses, which is, and you've already kind of gone into what it is, but it's published by Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment. Um, the the crazy thing about that, and you want to talk about potential roster. The fascinating thing is that Warner Brothers has an absolute metric ton of intellectual property, and we have some announced characters already. You want to dig into some of the announcements of who we got so far?
Yeah, man. Let's run down the. So we're gonna start. We'll start with the characters from Adventure Time. So we've got Finn and we've got Jake. And Adventure Time is a show that I've watched. I've enjoyed. Awesome that they got them in there, and awesome. The biggest thing that I'm gonna say is I'm so glad they got the voice actors because it just gives it that extra level of character. So now from DC, we've got Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Harley Quinn. And they didn't just get anybody to voice them, they got the voice actors that voiced them on the cartoons. How freaking cool is that?
Yeah, that's
The
pretty
next
awesome.
the next franchise is a little bit out of left field from, but I feel like it gives us an idea of exactly how wide reaching this could be, and it opens up the doors even more. We've got Game of Thrones being represented by Arya Stark, with Maisie Williams actually reprising her voice acting role. So cool on that. I'm hoping that we get to see some more Game of Thrones. Um, Looney Tunes has one sole representative, which kind of strikes me as odd, but it's Bugs Bunny. Scooby Doo has Shaggy, and it's not just any Shaggy. So they took the Ultra Instinct Shaggy meme and actually turned it into a character. And he's voiced by Matthew Lillard, who played him in the live action Scooby Doo movies. Um,
Yeah, that was excited. As soon as I saw that, I was excited. Yeah, that's a yeah. I'm in it for that one alone.
and then we've got from Steven Universe, again, another great show. Um, we've got Steven and we've got Garnet. And then from Tom and Jerry, we have Tom and Jerry. And I believe Tom and Jerry are going to work kind of like um, Duck Hunt Dog, where it's the duck and the dog working together. Um, and then
Yeah,
you've got
which makes sense. I don't mean to cut you there, but that makes a lot of sense because it's funny in in Smash where they do work together because in the actual game it's not that way.
right,
So
right. And then they've got one original character named Rain Dog, who looks like he's a cross between a reindeer and a dog. I mean, you probably kind of get that from the name. Um, so yeah, that's what we got for a launch roster.
So the fun part though, and this is the one thing that was really interesting to me. You made a comment just now about the inclusion of Game of Thrones because that really opens it up. And then you've hit DC Comics and like just kind of like matter of factly reference. Oh, little character named Batman, a little
Yeah,
character named Superman. These little characters. It's insane because then you have these other like insane intellectual properties that Warner Brothers has, and Looney Tunes. That's a whole nother universe there that it's really deep. But then you really start digging. I think that we got some fun with this, and I got to really thinking about like off the top of my head, who's the first person I want to see in this, and I went immediately DC Comics, and you have to have Deathstroke in there. You have to. Why
yeah,
not? I
yeah.
mean,
I would have to say him. Bane would be another one. Um,
and I say Deathstroke because that's the whole reason why Deadpool exists is
you know
Deathstroke.
what's you know what's funny? There's a so the way that all played out. So you have Deathstroke, you have who is Slade Wilson. You have Deadpool, who is Wade Wilson, and he's a takeoff on Slade Wilson. And then DC made a parody of Deadpool named Red Tool.
It's so
And
good.
he's got like tools strapped to his body, and he wears an all red suit. Um And I don't know much more about him beyond that, but I just think I would love to see Red Tool end up in this game.
There you go. Yeah, and I went the Deathstroke route. The only reason why is because in my head I was thinking more of the absolute fighting game, and playing like the Marvel and Capcom. Or, excuse me, not Marvel and Capcom. The um, oh DC
Mugens?
and no the man. I'm
Oh,
losing the
DC versus Mortal Kombat and the infamous or not infamous Injustice games.
yeah. So and I can't remember. They were like for the early ones I remember playing were back, gosh, like 10, 12 years ago, and they were fighters, and I just can't remember the names of them, but I would always pick Deathstroke because I always thought that was like he was such a fun character with the swords and whatnot. So I just really enjoyed using him as a character. So that's why I thought about him in this. Um, but going on with the DC comic thing, the thing that was interesting, you already mentioned Bane, but um, you know, you already have mentions of Batman and Harley Quinn, right? You have to think that some iteration thereof of the Joker has got to be in here, right?
You would think. You would
I
think.
mean, just a hunch, um, but that's an obvious want. And then with Superman, I think you kind of have the obvious like Lex Luthor, you know, character. I would imagine,
Yeah.
um, but I went a little deeper on that, and I was like, man, I really want to see General Zod.
No, I want Ambush Bug.
Ooh, there you go.
I want Ambush Bug. I want Booster Gold and Blue Beetle. I want the Ted Cord Blue Beetle. Um, I want Plastic Man. I want um let's see. I want Dead Man. I want John Constantine. And I want um Bizarro. Bizarro has to be in it.
Yeah, oh yeah, I almost listed a Bizarro. The Bizarro just always creeped me out. So I just such a weird looking character.
Yeah, but I mean,
And
honestly, like for real, you'd figure maybe like a Green Lantern shows up, a Flash shows up, um, probably the Teen Titans, maybe like the cartoon Teen Titans.
yeah, and that would be pretty awesome. I'd give it
But
up for that.
now, how do you think they're going to run with this? Do you think they'll take a bunch of DC characters, or do you think they're kind of going to be like, all right, look, we got these guys, and we have the Injustice series going, so that's kind of our DC fighting game. So we'll probably just kind of lay off.
I think they put enough in there to keep the palate wet. I don't think that they overdo it because of what you just said. They've got a whole other, you know, property specifically for this, and you don't want to overdo it either. So I would say that they would probably better just like leaving in the big guys. But if this is the type of game that I think they're going to make, one that they could potentially keep going for maybe a few years, and then have like maybe the ability to have like these add-on packs or DLCs or different things like that over time. Um, I could see it getting fairly deep, but yeah, up front, no, I get to keep the big ones in there for them, and get some of that fan base in. That's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, I agree.
But the Bizarro thing, um, and I'll tell you why it creeps me out. I'm gonna throw this, and what you have to look up here is Bizarro. And do you remember the Superboy TV show from the 1990s?
Vaguely.
Okay, so if you're ever doing your wonderful Google image searching, since we can't, one of these days we'll have to video this and actually throw like pictures up. But Google image Bizarro Superboy TV series. Here, I'm going to throw a picture at the end of our document just so you
Okay.
can see this. Yeah, I just threw a link on there. See what you think, because yeah,
All right. So,
that's why it creeps me out.
why is it not letting me? There it goes. Oh, yeah, the polygon looking face thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was not cool. That was not cool
No,
at all.
no,
Uh,
no. So that's why I've always stepped aside from that one.
I could
But
okay, I get that. I mean, yeah, like that's just they couldn't figure out anything better to do with him than that because that is pretty horrifying, especially as a kid.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
no
yeah. That's
thanks.
why. Yeah, that's why. Like, I didn't want to put him down because I was like, nah, because I'm afraid that that's what it would look like.
I mean, hey, you know what? You never know. It could very well end up coming out looking like that. I'm afraid if I
But
have a kid, that's what it's going to come out looking like. I'm going to have to
yeah,
kill it with
bizarre.
fire. It's going to be a big whole thing.
Bizarre, good old Bizarro from Superboy. Um, but yeah, but kind of going back, I would say that up front, they're just going to keep it to the main people. It's obviously going to be more than what they've announced, but I can't see them going deep because they're going to try to attract a lot of people here. We're not just talking about DC comic fans here. So now, and you mentioned this, the only one they've announced for Looney Tunes is Bugs Bunny, but you and I both know Looney Tunes is pretty deep as well. So, did you think of anyone off the top of your head that you wanted to see outside of obviously the one they've already announced in that
Um,
universe?
so not I don't want to steal your thunder, so I'm going to leave your ones on there. What was I forget his name? What was the big giant red monster's name?
Oh gosh,
The hairy one.
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I have no idea.
Because I'm thinking him, Marvin the Martian. Um,
Yeah,
those just off the top of my head. Daffy Duck. Um, I figure they would make good entries into it.
yeah,
Lola will probably be in it. I would imagine.
yeah. I would say that the Daffy, um, those you know characters are kind of in it no matter what. I would imagine like the Roadrunner, the Wile E. Coyote. I would think, I don't know. But
Right.
I threw down here like obviously the Tasmanian Devil. It's got to be. I mean, come on,
Yeah.
Taz in a fighting game. I mean,
It writes
Porky.
itself.
Yeah, exactly. Porky Pig, just because you know why not?
The name
Um,
recognition.
yeah, it seems like he'd be the one that would win the whole thing, no matter what, every time.
He would be like Kirby.
Exactly, exactly. And then what I made a note here too, because I'd forgotten about this, but it makes a lot of sense. That they had taken the guns away from Yosemite Sam and Elmer Fudd. But I could really care less about Elmer Fudd being in there. But I was like, man, it'd be awesome if Yosemite Sam's in there. But what is he going to use?
Right. Like a water
Like
pistol.
his mustache?
Dude. No, you figured it out. His mustache is now prehensile.
See, I mean,
There we
I think
go.
that's a fun. It's a fun idea on a character, but those are again the main ones. I can't see them going deep with it though, and
Yeah.
mainly because a lot of those aren't household names. What even now, you and I grew up on reruns of that stuff,
Yeah.
just because that was a common cartoon on. My kids not so much, and I could probably show them a picture of Foghorn Leghorn. They would have no idea who that is.
Dude,
You know,
no. Foghorn Leghorn has to be in it.
main character. It's got to be.
Right.
But
It
um,
shouldn't be called Multiversus. It should be called Foghorn Leghorn and a bunch of other losers.
there you go. Yeah, yeah, and Bizarro.
Yeah. Foghorn Leghorn and Bizarro plus a bunch of other people.
All right. So, all right, we did DC and Looney Tunes, and we'll probably circle back around to some of that stuff. But um, you had thrown a nice Game of Thrones note on though. Um, who else from that show? Because that's one that I'll eventually dive into. I never really got into it. We've kind of got on our list. I like watching shows after they've been off for a while. So I kind of like if I've read spoilers, I completely forget what happened.
Well, that's good.
That's
Um, yeah, man, I would love to see Jon Snow. I'd like to see Jon Snow with Ghost, his dire wolf, a as like an assist, kind of, or like a
yeah.
trooper. Um, Tyrion Lannister, I think would be fun. Um, you could have the Mountain, but I just don't know. Um, the dog. Dude, there's so many, or the hound rather. There's so many good characters from that. Hodor. You could have friggin' dude. Hodor would be badass in this game. I mean, he would hold a door. Um, but sorry, spoiler. Um, but you could have some White Walkers in there. You could have. There's so many different characters, so much different stuff you could do. You could have Khal Drago in there. There's so many good characters that it's so ripe for you know adaptation. I would love. I could have a game. What I could deal with is a game like this where it's just Game of Thrones characters.
Yeah, and I mean, and they've got a deep universe as well. And I think it's what really is really surprising to me was that whenever I started looking at the announced characters, that they had already announced somebody from that, and like you said, opened the door to a whole nother world there. And kind of a twofold thing too. Now we've looked, we hit some DC comic stuff, we hit Looney Tunes. Obviously, both got their start in the comic book / cartoon world, and we're very well familiar of later on live action stuff with DC Comics, um, which has been around for decades. But the crazy thing here is Game of Thrones was obviously out of a novel started into this more of obviously the popularization came from a TV show, live action. So it really opens up the properties and including maybe some other characters in this. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, and
Um,
there's just so much you can do with it, and so much. Warner Brothers, this is a brilliant idea by them. I mean, honestly, I don't know why they didn't do this earlier back. Like, do you remember was it PlayStation All Stars? Was there one?
yeah, yeah, I do recall that. Never played it, but I do recall that.
I'm just kind of surprised why they didn't go more this route with that. I mean, I get it, but they could have widened their appeal and their approach so much more, because that game honestly to me is a vastly underrated game. I enjoyed that game. Yes, it was a Smash clone, but you know what, anything that comes after the original is going to be derided as a clone. Look at how many games were called Doom clones, and now it's an entire genre. It's first person shooter.
Oh
you know
yeah, yep, exactly. And truth be told, there's and the video games are funny. There's very few original games that will maintain, like you just said, Doom, for example, and that whole FPS world. Um, Doom back in 1993 was obviously at the pinnacle of that. But even Doom itself, which was really funny, was based off of, or kind of iterated off of Wolfenstein,
right.
which then came from something else, which and then it evolved into these other things, and it's really hard for the original to maintain that top spot. So yeah, you will have clones, and you will have even if, whether it's the same developer or not, and just different ideas and different games. And yeah, I mean, so be it. That's just the fact of the matter. It's kind of the world we live in. Everyone
Right.
steals everything from everybody, idea wise. It's just how it is. So just kind of, I think that's the one thing though with these kind of particular games, if really hone in on it, that Smash has been able, Super Smash Brothers, when I say Smash, um, that it's been able to stay on top of the heap because it's evolved enough, but yet it still stayed true, and they, have been able to maintain such an insanely deep roster, mainly because well, Nintendo has a pretty wide swipe too. So
Yeah. And then, Nintendo was able to go out and once, what are we on the fourth iteration of it? So we're, they're able to say, hey, look, or fifth iteration, actually, they're able to say, hey, look, we know you guys want to be a part of this. This is the hottest fighting game in the world. And they're able to sway people to say, oh, yeah, sure, take our characters. They've got people begging them to put their characters in the game,
oh
to
yeah,
increase their characters' notoriety.
yeah,
So,
would have never thought that I would have sat there, and I don't mean to turn this into a Smash thing, but I'm sitting there playing as Cloud, or
Right.
from Final Fantasy, or I'm playing as a Street Fighter character, or I'm playing as Mega Man, or these. Granted, Mega Man and Nintendo have been synonymous for years. That's a
Right.
Capcom character, though.
Right.
So it's definitely a nice handshake type agreement thing here, and I'm really glad that Warner Brothers is finally attempting something, because you know we haven't even we haven't really scratched the surface yet, have we?
No. No, we really
uh
haven't.
the one note I have on here, and I don't know if you'll agree with me on this, and because I just kind of looking at what they have, the Harry Potter universe, is that in play here for this
I would
multiverses?
imagine. I would imagine, and I think because we're getting the next what is it called? Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. We're getting the next one of them soon, so I would imagine maybe went closer to the release of that, we'll get Harry or Ron or Hermione or somebody.
Yeah,
Somebody will be in it.
you got some really interesting things there. One other thing I completely neglected to thinking about cartoons was the Hanna Barbera universe is part of Warner Brothers, and you want to talk about a whole nother slew of cartoon characters you can rip out: the
Oh yeah, dude.
Flintstones, the Jetsons, Johnny Quest, Yogi Bear. It just goes on and on and on out of that.
Birdman, Space Ghost.
Exactly. Space Ghost was one I did not put in my notes, just for the sheer fact that I know you're such a Space Ghost fan. So
Dude, yes. There, if Space Ghost isn't in it, I'm gonna riot.
yeah, I mean, that was a given. Um, but then I got to thinking about some of these other things, and Game of Thrones was what really threw this in my mind, and really looking at a couple of different websites for just what they actually have. But if you're going to have something that was really more popularized off of a live action, you want to talk about some live action things that they have. My goodness, uh, a lot of my personal favorites are this that they have: um, Beetlejuice, Willy Wonka, Ace Ventura, and then you and I both on this one, Austin Powers, Doctor Evil.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Like I don't know
It's
how you would honestly, I don't know how you would do Doctor Evil, but you gotta figure out a way. You have to.
all he needs to be is one character with two options. One is Austin, one is Doctor Evil. That's it.
Yeah.
you
Oh
know,
wait, I wonder, do they own the Cat in the Hat?
I don't
He
know.
could be the live action Cat in the Hat too.
I don't know.
As long as they don't do the Love Guru,
No, 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 no.
because that
No,
movie was god awful.
we're not doing that. That's just as bad as Superboy Bizarro.
Do, you know what? I don't. It might be worse. Superboy Bizarro might have come up with that movie. He might have actually written it.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense now. Crap.
I'm pretty sure he was involved somehow.
Um, hmm. I'm gonna start blaming a lot of the bad things on him.
Dude, it makes sense because think about it. So when he answers, it's the reverse of what he says. So, you know, if he says, yes, you should do this, it really means don't. That's what he means. So, yes, Superboy Bizarro say make Love Guru. Means he doesn't want us to make it, and then but we hear yes, make it, and that's how it got made.
That's okay. There you go. Yeah, that's a really
So
fair point.
it's so Superboy Bizarro's fault. Everything that's gone wrong in the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah, that's it. I knew it. I knew it.
You know,
um,
all be traced back.
but then you have like these other things, these other live action, like they have the Elf property, Buddy the Elf, or Miles Finch.
Dude, if Buddy the Elf ends up in this freaking game, I'm gonna lose my ass.
I mean, come on. And I went in as far so deep and out on this one. but I was looking at a Warner Brothers like IP site, and they actually have Steve Urkel.
You know what? I want to see Buddy the Elf versus Steve Urkel
I mean, I didn't start
versus
playing
Super
fighting
Brothers
video
logo.
games. I wanted to see that. Like, I want to see that now.
Yo, Urkel, I'm pretty sure Urkel could jack him up because I think the dude that played Urkel is what is his name?
Jaleel White.
Yes, Jaleel White. I'm pretty sure he's been doing pretty well for himself. So I think he's good. He would jack up Will Ferrell, man. Calling it
Um,
now.
the other things though, and I don't know that they go this route. Although they've adding Game of Thrones is pretty deep. So could they potentially add Mortal Kombat characters because they have the IP for the movie? Um, like Johnny Cage or someone like that.
I mean, maybe you see a like a Sub Zero pop up or somebody like that. Um, I would be surprised. You know, I know you mentioned in passing like a Neo or like a like a John Wick, some kind of Keanu Reeves character. But did you see there was actually an article recently where he said he did not want his characters to cross over into any of the video games like that. Like he didn't
Hmm.
want to be in Mortal Kombat. He didn't want to be in any of that stuff. He wanted it to kind of stand on its own.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's fair. I mean,
I
and
mean,
and truth
ultimately,
be
I don't think it's up to him though. But
no, and truth be told, like if you really think about it, let's just say Neo for the example, for something like this, as cool as it would be to see, um, you know, it not a cartoon at all, um, in the sense of a game like this. I don't, I don't know that you can adapt it enough to really make it fit. I mean, I guess you could, but
right,
he is kind of right in that sense. Like it is pretty different for
yeah,
those sorts of things. Um, and I think that's why I didn't really include it, other than like just saying it because um, in my notes that I wrote down, because like I think it'd be awesome. Don't get me wrong. I
yeah,
just don't know that it fits necessarily. But then again, does Game of Thrones fit with some of this stuff? So, you
right, right,
know,
right.
all right. So what about some of the other ones, man, that you had down? Because we get a little deeper here.
So I had some ones that I thought, and a lot of mine, and this is going to show what kind of entertainment I'm into. So I was thinking, like, what old Cartoon Network or Adult Swim shows could I see? And so we talked before we started recording. We talked about Carl from Aqua Teen Hunger Force showing up in Space Jam 2. And my immediate thought was, yo, Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I need Frylock, I need Meatwad, and I need Master Shake. And actually, I want Carl. I want all four of them in this game. I want all four of them. I want the mech from Megas XL, which probably me and maybe like three other people remember. But it was a show on, and I believe it was on Adult Swim. I don't remember if it was Adult Swim or if it was just Cartoon Network proper. Um, this dude had like a '57 Chevy esque like hot rod, and he would shift. He would do the shifter, and it would turn into a giant mech, and that's how he would fight people. He would headbutt. There was a button on the dashboard, and that's how he always ended every fight. Was he would headbutt the button on the dashboard, and it would make him do some special super move or whatever. Um, that would be cool. Uh, the, I mean, Rick and Morty. Apparently, there was a leak on a where Rick was supposed to be one of the original characters in the game, but they changed the roster at the last minute or something. So they could be in play. Um, I would love for some of the characters from Metalocalypse to be in it.
Oh yes.
Dr. Roxo, the rock and roll clown. Yeah. That would be cool. You know, I don't think, I mean, you could get Lord of the Rings involved. Um, I don't think that Voltron is a Warner Brothers character, but let's throw Voltron in there. Let's throw um let's throw the Ghostbusters in. Again, I don't know that they're Warner Brothers, but let's throw them in there.
I thought I actually looked that up and I was like, man, I really wish they were, because they're unfortunately they're not.
Let's throw Samurai Jack in. Let's throw the Powerpuff Girls. Um, the one character that we're gonna get that I really just have no desire to see in the game, but I just have this feeling he's gonna end up in it is LeBron James, um, which instant turn off for me. But whatever. I guess I'm not technically the target demo for this game, so it's cool. Um,
Yeah, and it's one of those things that kind of makes sense based on the relative newness, if you will, of the movie, for him. And whatever. I mean, it is what it is.
right.
But the good thing is you don't have to pick him. Maybe you can make the computer pick him, and then just maybe Bugs Bunny could just smack him around a little bit.
You know what I would love? I would love for them to get Shaq involved, and then you can
Yes,
kind of remake. Like I know that
Shaq
the new
Shaq Fu.
well, no, dude. There was a new Shaq Fu that came out for Switch.
No, well, yeah. I do. I actually do know that.
Yeah, it was like Shaq Fu: A Legend Reborn. It was god
Mhm.
awful. Like it was one of the worst games I've ever played in my life. I'm glad I played it, but I'm also mad at myself for spending money on it. Um,
Why? I'm just kidding.
why am I mad at myself for spending money on?
No, no. Like, why did you do that in the first place?
Oh. You know what? Here's why, man. Here's why. So I figured, all right, they've had how many years of criticism on this game about how bad it was, which I honestly, I'm gonna give you a hot take. I didn't think that the original game was that bad. Um, maybe that's me looking at it with nostalgic glasses. Uh, maybe it's because of one of the probably 20 copies that I bought and threw on the roof of the old Hollywood Video store in Woodbury Heights. But like I didn't think it was that bad of a game. It wasn't a great game by any means, but it was playable. And
Right.
I figured that they would take all of that and take all of the criticism that they've gotten and all of the meme worthy stuff and turn the sequel into a fun tongue-in-cheek game. And they tried. But God, it was even worse. It was so bad. The load times were atrocious. Just like everything about it was awful. And I hated it. And I regret buying it. And I honestly I couldn't tell you what I did with it. I don't know if I traded it in at GameStop or if I sold it at 8-Bit Hall of Fame or what I did with it, but I know I no longer have it. And then I got some sage and I cleansed the house once it was out
Okay.
of it.
Good.
So
That's probably a good idea.
yeah, I want to make sure it doesn't come back.
But yeah, and this whole game though, and we could probably talk about the Warner Brothers universe for hours on end, but it really is deep. This is going to be, I'm hoping it'll be fun. One thing you mentioned though, and I think this would be a good point to, kind of wrap us up here with this one is you had mentioned, or when we started this, free to play. You want to elaborate on that any?
Yeah, so free to play, man. So not only is it free to play, meaning you don't have to buy the game. It's you download the game, you play it. And it's cross-platform. So, those poor souls that were unable to snag a PS4 or a PS5 or an Xbox Series system this season, uh, will be able to play it as well as people who were fortunate enough to grab a Series X or S or a PS5. Um, Playable across all platforms. I'm assuming PC and Steam as well. Uh, dude, they're really just knocking it out of the park on this stuff. The only system that I haven't seen any kind of announcement for is the Switch, and I guess I understand why, being the quote unquote weaker system, but I
Well,
kind of
that
wish it would
and
come out.
Smash, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, I guess they figure, this is going to be the Smash alternative for people who don't have a Switch and who don't want to play a terrible gimped version of Smash Brothers in Nintendo All-Stars Brawl.
That could be the only thing I would think of, is that might be the only reason why. Um, that and Nintendo is pretty funny with things. There's because the way the looking at the graphics and stuff, and my understanding of this game itself, certainly feels like something that like the Switch could handle.
Yeah.
Honestly, it feels like something that my phone could handle.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
You're not wrong.
and it's not like it's a deep, you know, beautiful, picturesque. Oh, it takes 2 Blu-rays worth of data to put onto your system. I mean,
Right.
it certainly doesn't feel like that. But who knows? It could just be one of those later announcements too, because the Switch does get things a little bit later,
True.
which is been very typical of the system so far. When I say later, like 2-3 years. So,
Well,
uh,
what's funny too, and maybe this is part of it, is when they announced this and they did their video, they took several shots at Nintendo and they took several shots at the Nickelodeon game um in their presentation.
so yeah,
So
they may have very well just said no on that in the first place. But the free to play thing is that's really cool, because you're gonna automatically gonna get um you know unless it's a service based thing. You and I talked
right.
about that off air, where hey, is this going to require PlayStation Plus or Xbox services, or you know some service PC wise or whatever. Unless it requires something like that, if it doesn't, boy, you're going to get everyone playing this. That's and if you were into any kind of platform fighter, and you have any hands on just about any kind of system, and this is truly free to play, oof, I could see that um, really working out well. And then you make your money off of your add-ons, your DLC stuff, possibly your unlocks, kind of like Among Us, where you can unlock your different costumes and your hats and those things, because that's where they,
Right.
at the end of the day, it's where they make their money. It's like, I just want a new hat for my character. Well, here's $2. Well, you get your 20 new hats. Well, you just pretty much bought a game, didn't you?
Right.
So
Exactly. My hope
it's
is just that they keep it to cosmetic items and they don't make it like a microtransaction fest, like a lot of the like Call of Duty and stuff has become. Um, I mean, if you want to sell costumes and stuff like that, cool. Absolutely go for it, man. But I'm hoping that they don't like say, okay, well, hey, you want to play as Doomsday and his one hit kill, then pay $5 and congratulations. You know,
right, right.
but with all
Yeah,
the goodwill they've built up with it and everything they've done so far, I can't see them squandering all that on a cash grab.
right. No, no, it'll be interesting. I hope for the best. Do you have an actual release date other than 2022?
Now I'm on the website right now, and all I'm seeing is just 2022. And it will be available on Steam. Let's see. Da, 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 da. Yeah, it just says coming 2022, and it says it will have in-game purchases, but let's see, content-filled seasons and in-game purchases. So what it sounds like is you can buy a season pass, kind of like you can for Fortnite, um, and you'll be able to get stuff that way. I would assume like unlocks and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll just be two different tiers of unlocks. And if you have the season pass, you'll get extra bonus stuff. But
Okay, that makes sense. All right. Well, this has been good. We'll have to revisit this when it actually does come out, because I'm definitely going to grab this one because hey, free to play, right?
Right. Hey, you know what? If it's free, it's for me.
So it's yeah, I'm excited. Kind of curious to see who they announce, as additional characters, because we know it's going to be more than 13, and we realize that several of the characters we mentioned, or even people, it just obviously that's never going to happen, but it's fun to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, let's face it. Neither of us are going to be happy unless John Cena and Captain Planet get added to it. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
unless they do that, it's a failure to me. And I'm gonna write them a strongly worded letter.
Yep. Now I just want to see Captain Planet versus Superboy Bizarro. That,
Yes,
that's it.
that's it. That's all we need. That's all we need. And then Superboy Bizarro is gonna haunt your dreams forever.
Yep. Yep.
So
Well,
on
I think
that
that
note,
wrap.
make sure you go to doublewidecoffin.com and check out our podcast, and make sure you download it wherever you can. Interact with us on Facebook and Twitter. And until next time, we have been the Noise Brigade. We will see you next time.